Yeah.
Tonight we're talking about Social Security. Making a claim for Social Security benefits is not always as easy as it sounds, especially if you get denied. Knowing about eligibility requirements, medical evidence, appeal procedures, and vocational evaluations can help. Good evening and welcome to Lawyers on the Line. I'm Jim Balmer, a partner at Falsani, Balmer, Peterson Quinn, and this evening's moderator. I'm pleased to welcome our panelists, both of whom are partners of mine, Sean Quinn, another partner with Falsani, Balmer, Peterson Quinn law firm, and Stephanie Balmer, also a partner with the Falsani Balmer firm. Both of them specialize in Social Security disability claims, among other areas of the law, so they're well informed and ready for your questions. Call locally at 218-788-2844, or if that's long distance for you, call our toll-free line at 1-877-307-8762. And now on to tonight's topic. The first question I have is about the difference between Social Security retirement benefits and Social Security disability benefits. So Sean, I'll start with you. What do I have to do in order to qualify for Social Security retirement benefits?
Well, step one, live long enough, because you got to be a certain age. If you're age 62, you can apply for Social Security retirement. You will take a reduction if you apply that early, but at 62 you can get it. By the time you get to about 67, 68, if you haven't applied yet, you can apply and you will not take a reduction. There's a graduated scale of reduction. The second part is you have to have paid into the system. So if you've worked and paid Social Security taxes, you will be eligible for Social Security retirement. If you never worked a day in your life, you're not going to get anything. Once you've paid something into, you'll get something. The more you pay in, the more you'll get.
Now, I understand that some state and municipal employees were not required to pay into the Social Security system. Is that correct?
That's correct. In Minnesota, there are certain state employees, a lot of teachers paid into a teacher retirement system or to PERA. Now we have in Minnesota MSRS, so people pay into that system instead of Social Security. So they still get a benefit, it's just not from the federal government, it's from the state government.
Now, Stephanie, I have the impression then from what Sean said that not everybody in the United States automatically qualifies for Social Security benefits, whether retirement or disability. I mean, isn't it enough that you're a citizen of the United States in order to qualify for Social Security?
Well, okay, so we have Social Security retirement, which Sean talked about, and then we have Social Security disability insurance, or SSDI, and that's a disability program where you, like Sean mentioned, have to pay into the system, but then you also have to become disabled and prove that you're disabled and so forth. But then there's also something called supplemental, we'll call it SSI for tonight, and that, as long as you qualify as disabled and meet some other requirements under the law, you can qualify for benefits and you needn't have paid into the system at all.
So that's just as good as Social Security disability, right?
No, SSDI and SSI are analyzed the same way for purposes of determining whether someone's disabled. But SSI is a flat rate. It's the same for everybody. I think it's $733 right now.
35.
35
yeah.
right now, and it's the same for everybody. It doesn't matter whether you worked or how much you worked or at all. It's always the same. And then additionally, SSI recipients have some very strict resource and income and asset limitations. Depending on who you are, it can be $2,000 for any given month or $3,000 for any given month, and so that's a tougher program to stick with for various reasons.
Okay,
so and it's a welfare benefit.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Yeah. On a national scale.
On a national scale.
So Governor Dayton could qualify for Social Security retirement or Social Security disability. Am I right?
Well, he certainly could retire qualify for retirement because I believe Governor Dayton's old enough.
Right.
He couldn't qualify for disability because he's actively engaged in employment.
Ah, okay.
And he wouldn't qualify for SSI because Governor Dayton is far too wealthy to qualify for welfare benefits.
Got it. Okay. Now, turning back to retirement benefits for a moment, our law firm got this question from our Facebook page today. Stephanie, I will ask you about it first, and then Sean can follow up. The woman who wrote the question never paid into the Social Security system because she was apparently part of the New York State Employee Pension Benefit System. So, like Sean had mentioned a few minutes ago, they apparently were exempt from the requirement of paying into the Social Security system. Now, she apparently had 3 husbands, and they apparently all did pay into the Social Security system, but she never received any benefits, even though they did. Now, can you explain to us how that could happen?
Yeah, I can take part of that, and maybe Sean can finish it. As far as qualifying for disability, Social Security disability or Social Security or SSI, she wouldn't qualify for SSDI because she didn't pay into the system. Okay, so regardless of whether she's disabled or not, because she didn't, Social Security calls them credits, because there aren't enough credits in her column. For the reasons Sean already explained, that wouldn't work. She may qualify for SSI if she's disabled, but my concern on that would be is if she is getting a pension, she probably has too much in income and resources to qualify for SSI. As far as whether she qualifies for benefits under one of her husbands.
Yeah, that's a harder one. And I wish I had brought my little book to give me the answers because I have the regulations. It's always complicated. But spouses can get benefits if they're disabled and they meet certain other requirements. One of them is having a child under the age of 18. Typically, people who are at retirement age do not, but every once in a while they do. They can get disability based upon their own disability, but on their spouse's account if they reach certain age markers, but also the husband has to be deceased. It can apply to widows, widowers as well, if they were married a certain amount of years. I think it's at least a 10-year marriage. It also can apply to divorcees or divorcees. And widowed divorcees, and there's a whole bunch of different regulations. For the particular person who wrote the Facebook page, oftentimes people don't qualify for disability, surprisingly, or any kind of Social Security benefit, because they never applied. It's like they expect the federal government to come to them and say, hey, do you want your money? You have to go there and apply. You have to go to the Social Security office and apply.
Or go online.
Or go online,
like you to go
which is they
online now.
prefer,
Yep.
ssa.gov.
Yep.
Yeah, I went over there one day because I had a problem, and they were not happy to see me, but they took care of me because they had nothing else to do at the moment. Anyway, I hope none of you are watching. Thanks, by the way.
Nice save.
Now, I've heard or I've seen on the internet stuff about undocumented immigrants taking advantage of the Social Security system and getting benefits, even though they're undocumented immigrants. So, Stephanie, can you explain to me how that could happen?
Well, you have to have a Social Security number to
Yes.
get Social Security benefits. So if you don't have a Social Security number, you can't get Social Security benefits.
How about SSI?
No.
Okay.
So, in other words, what you've seen on the internet might not be true.
Fake news.
I thought everything on the internet was true.
I know.
Almost everything.
Okay, can you get both SSI and SSDI at the same time? I'll ask you that one, Sean.
Yes, you can have paid into the system and earn enough credits, but still also qualify for welfare because you don't have enough assets at the moment and other income in the household. However, they coordinate with each other, and so you will get the higher number. SSI, as Stephanie already said, is about $735 a month. If your regular benefit is higher than that, then that's what you're going to get, and you will not get the SSI.
Okay.
If the SSI amount is the higher amount, you'll get your regular benefit, say $500, and you'll get another $235 in SSI.
Okay.
So,
Now,
so you'll still get the full SSI amount. Part of it won't be called SSI.
It depends on how much your SSDI payment is, and that's conditioned on your credits, how much you worked, how much you made, things like that.
Right.
okay. Now, Stephanie, let's talk a little bit about qualifying for either of these benefits, either SSDI or SSI. What do I have to show in order to qualify? Because you said earlier that the legal analysis to qualify for both is the same.
So there are several ways to prove that you're disabled for purposes of Social Security. I usually start on this end of the spectrum, and that's if you have a condition that meets the compassionate allowance requirement, and those are very serious medical conditions, stage 4 cancers, organ failure, and frankly, even then, if you have one of those conditions, you can still get denied. I've seen that happen as well. But that's meant to be a very rapid process for obvious reasons.
Right, because you're dying.
Right.
Okay.
The second way to qualify is to have a medical condition that meets one of these listed impairments. It's a similar analysis to the compassionate allowance analysis. The Social Security Administration promulgates a series of regulations. Sean mentioned we've got books and books of them, but a bunch of them talk about various medical conditions and the symptoms, manifestations of these conditions, and then the resulting functional impairments. Okay,
And that's the listing
the listed
of
impairments or the listings. And so
Okay.
if you have a medical condition or a combination of medical conditions that meet or equal one of these listed impairments, that's also meant to be a very clear finding of disability, but that can be complicated as well. Yeah.
So what if you're not on the? What if your condition is not on the listing?
Well, so the third way is I call it the grid. Well, everybody calls it the grids, and that's if
Everybody.
everybody, everybody. If a medical doctor has established that you have sedentary work restrictions or light duty restrictions, if you have medium or heavy restrictions, you're probably not going to qualify. But what those restrictions represent is what's called your residual functional capacity, or what you're able to do in a work setting. And so that can be hard to do if you're not being evaluated through occupational medicine or a workers' comp system or something like that. But if you have those limitations in place, then they look at your age, your vocational background, your educational background, a couple other factors, and they'll just find you disabled or not disabled. And then finally, the way that I think most people are familiar with, and which frankly represents the bulk of my cases, is basically all the evidence shows that you cannot sustain substantial gainful activity. And what that means is due to your medical conditions. And substantial gainful activity is the magical set of words. What that is you can't work enough to make approximately $1,200 a month.
Sean, to follow up on some of the things Stephanie just said, could I just get a letter from my doctor that says, Jim is disabled, please give him benefits, and then I'm done?
Well, certainly you can get that letter, and a lot of doctors will write them. That doesn't mean that the Social Security Administration will believe it. And oftentimes these single sentence or 2-sentence letters from doctors, well-intentioned and probably quite sincere, aren't particularly helpful.
Why not?
Because it's conclusory. This man can't work. Jim Balmer cannot work. Well, that doesn't help.
It's a legal conclusion.
Yeah, right. It is a legal conclusion.
Not a medical conclusion.
It's not a medical opinion.
Okay.
What we want, what the Social Security Administration wants, and therefore what Stephanie or I want for our clients, is we want to see in the treatment notes from the doctors or a longer narrative report from a doctor saying, this man has these medical conditions, and because of them, this man is going to miss a lot of work and be absent from work. You can't sustain work if you're going to be absent, or is going to have all kinds of other symptoms, or is going to need additional medical care, is not going to be able to be a reliable employee. Those are all huge factors.
Now, as a follow-up to that, let me ask this. Could I be still working and yet be eligible to apply for Social Security disability?
Yes, and you can get benefits, apply and get benefits if you're working, but to some degree. Stephanie mentioned the magical word, substantial gainful activity. And as she said, it means making about $1,200 a month. And that's gross, that's before taxes. If you can only hold a very minimal part-time job, I can only work 10 hours a week, 2 5-hour shifts a week, that's all I can do, then you're still disabled because you can't sustain that level of earnings if that's what you're limited to. So that's allowed. Once somebody is on disability benefits,
Yes.
it's not necessarily forever. It's not necessarily permanent.
So it might be temporary.
It could be temporary because it means the inability to work to earn substantial gainful activity levels for at least 12 months in a row. So someone gets a bad illness or has a bad injury and has a long period of recovery, and they're going to be off work for a couple of years. They can get Social Security benefits. Once there's improvement, then maybe they can go back to work, and they can have what's called a trial work period. And that's 9 months where it doesn't matter how much money you make, you're still going to get benefits. And the idea is to get you back to work, but not pull the rug out from under you to see if it is going to last.
Okay.
And if it doesn't last, okay, you stay on benefits. If it does last, okay, we're going to slowly take you off and then just permanently take you off.
Okay. Now, Steph, let me ask this. You talked a little bit ago about qualifying for benefits, and a lot of people I know have told me as a lawyer about a guy they heard about who drives his Harley to the bar every afternoon, and he looks fine, doesn't look sick or disabled, and he's been drawing benefits. Mm-hmm. And it always sounds like the same guy, from regardless of where the people telling me about it are from. But
Well, he lives everywhere, that guy.
well, does such a person exist?
Yeah, no. Here's what I say to people when they say that, and we hear a lot about this in our line of work because people who come to us are very frustrated. They say, how is this guy getting on benefits with no wait at all, and I'm being denied, and I'm having to wait for a year and a half, and so forth. First of all, I tell people, you don't know what that person's situation is. You don't know what's in their medical records. A lot of people, especially in northern Minnesota and northern Wisconsin, put on a good show. Nobody in this area goes around and complains about how, all the medical problems they have and how disabled they are. Well, I guess some people do, but you don't know. And the idea that in spite of all these good claims that are being denied, there's a whole bunch of bad claims that are being approved, it doesn't make any sense. And so I respectfully suggest when people say that, you don't know what that person's dealing with.
Well, and importantly, a lot of people are on Social Security disability, the two primary reasons are low back pain or some other level of orthopedic pain and some sort of mental health problem. And pain is absolutely invisible. I mean, any one of the three of us sitting here right now could be in terrible pain and you wouldn't know it. You can't see pain. And mental health problems, also invisible. Not everyone who has a mental health problem that keeps them from being able to work is standing on the street corner, blowing bubbles and acting crazy.
So do people hoodwink the United States government?
Of course not. Of course not. People who are terribly depressed will often put on a good show for somebody for 10 minutes or a half an hour or an hour. And then after everyone's gone, they go back inside and they cry.
Yeah, I mean,
because you can't see that.
The analysis here is a full-time job.
Right.
And a lot of people, when they no longer are going through that, struggling with showing up for work and doing what's required of them, they feel better. It's because they're disabled. And so if you took the same person who seems to be enjoying a decent quality of life and you force them to go back to work full-time, it would be a disaster. And that's why they're disabled, because they're, they can live when they're not forced to work full time.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you each some yes and no questions. Then I want to get to some callers.
Okay.
Sean, can I draw workers' compensation benefits simultaneously with Social Security disability benefits?
For yes and no, yes, you can.
Okay. Steph, can I draw workers' comp benefits simultaneously with SSI benefits?
Technically you can. It would have to be a very tiny amount.
Okay. Sean, what if I was in a car crash and I'm drawing no-fault benefits? Can I draw no-fault benefits simultaneously with Social Security disability benefits?
Again, yes, you can. There might be some coordination, but yes, you can.
Okay. And Stephanie,
Yeah.
what if I'm eligible for a pension and also eligible for Social Security disability? Say a disability pension from SAPI. Can I draw both disability pension benefits and Social Security disability benefits at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
But
I
again-
understand there'll be coordination, but it's a yes
I don't
or no
like yes or
question.
no questions.
Yeah.
We're lawyers.
Okay, now, well, I wanted to get to some of these questions
Okay.
our viewers have. Now, this one's about Social Security. Frog. This person went to apply for retirement benefits at age 62. I'll give this one to you, Sean.
All right?
And when this person showed up, it was learned that someone else had already applied for those benefits under this person's name. What can the United States and people like this caller do to solve these kinds of problems or prevent them?
Oh, that's a identity theft question, which is beyond my skill set.
Okay,
But
so it's not really a Social Security
It's really not a Social Security question. That person certainly should talk to somebody in the United States Attorney General's office to deal with that. I've had a few clients who've had that experience at their Social Security hearings where they find out there are various earnings on their records at employers that they never worked at. But they have to deal with the Attorney General's office and resolve that problem. Is basically a federal prosecutor.
Okay, now, here's a question. Is Social Security income taxable income?
It can be.
Okay, great. Now,
Not a tax expert, and it depends.
okay, but it
It
can
can
be.
be. When you should always, I mean, you should talk to someone when it's tax time.
Like an accountant.
Yes, and you know, if you're in a situation where you're living, you know, SS check to SS check, Community Action Duluth has great tax clinics,
Oh.
and they'll answer your questions.
Okay. Now, Sean, I think we kind of touched on this question earlier. If a person never paid into Social Security as a homemaker, at age 62, can she collect half her husband's Social Security benefit?
I believe the answer is yes, assuming the husband is eligible for retirement too. So if her husband is younger, then no. But once the husband reaches retirement age, then she is eligible for on his account. I believe that's correct.
Okay. I think we already answered this one. All right, now, Steph, somebody who was in the United States on a green card, that is a non-resident work permit,
Okay.
paid into the Social Security system because they were employed by somebody who withheld it for everybody. Then they moved back to their country of origin. Can they get Social Security benefits even though they've moved back to, say, Taiwan or Abu Dhabi or someplace?
So this is a caller from Abu Dhabi?
I don't know. It doesn't say.
I don't think so. I think you have to be a resident or a citizen at the time of your disability, I would say.
Yeah. I honestly don't know the answer.
I will say I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's see. I put a bunch of questions. Okay, here are some other things. Now, do you need a legal representative to assist you in getting Social Security disability benefits, Stephanie?
You don't need one. I will say Social Security is a system where you shouldn't need someone. But the problem is...
So how do you guys earn a living?
Well, we earn a living because sometimes you do need someone. And the areas that we help people with to maximize their odds of getting on benefits are areas where your average person doesn't realize, okay? And the doctor's note is a perfect example. I met with a woman the other day. She said, I don't understand my doctor wrote that I'm disabled. I don't understand why I was denied. And I said, yeah, actually that's not enough, you know, and sometimes it's a matter of getting the right, a lot of times it's a matter of getting the right evidence from a medical provider.
Well, are you better equipped to seek that than, say, your client?
Well, it depends on the medical provider. The problem is
The answer is yes.
not getting it from them. I know what to ask.
That's what you mean.
But a lot of medical providers, and I'll speak frankly, they have neither the time or the interest to deal with this system. And so it is frequently a matter of going through the right channels, asking the right questions. And, you know, that's a systemic issue that is a totally another show. But, yeah, sometimes you do need a representative. And, you know, I talk to a fair number of people who want to maximize their odds of getting on it the first time and as soon as possible. And so they just don't want to waste any time and will consult with us right away.
But certainly if you get denied, you need a lawyer. Absolutely.
Now, are there any time limits once you get a denial in the mail? Can you just kind of put it aside and when you feel like it, maybe come back and seek it?
To all the viewers, 60 days. That's what you got, 60 days. People call us on the 58th day. I want to see you right now. I just got denied 58 days ago.
Well, you can see him, can't you?
If I'm at work that day, if I'm not in court, maybe, if I'm not busy, call right away.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
Call
got
as soon as
60
you get
days.
it. Yep.
Okay, all right. Now, I've heard, Steph, that some people are allowed to represent Social Security claimants even though they don't have law degrees or law licenses.
Yep, you don't have to be a lawyer to be a representative. You know, there are groups across Minnesota and across the country, frankly, full of non-lawyer representatives. Most of the rules are the same. You know, as far as how much you get paid, it's the same for every representative, no matter what case it is. You know, the statutory percentage applies.
This is your opportunity for a quick commercial. Is getting a lawyer better than having a non-lawyer, or is it about the same?
I believe it is better. And
Why?
The reason I believe that is this. 95% of the cases that come to me and Sean are denied and are going to end up in front of a judge at hearing with medical experts and vocational experts. And we are the best equipped to deal with that. And we are also bound by the rules of ethics, which I think does affect our representation.
Okay, Sean, this is probably the last question because we're just about out of time. How do I know how much money I'll get if I qualify?
If you haven't applied yet, you call Social Security and you ask them. You can also go online, mysocialsecurity.gov, I believe it is.
Look it up.
Or ssa.gov/mysocialsecurity, something like that.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we're just about out of time. In fact, that is all the time that we have. Please join us next week when we answer your questions about family law. I want to thank our panelists this evening and thank you for watching. I'm Jim Balmer. Good night.